I wanted to ask you, because you speak about Ama and you speak about river cruising with such passion. I was curious. Do you remember your first time on a river cruise ship, and do you remember sort of what you felt, or what the experience was like when you got on board?
Yeah. So not the day boats, right? Not the
Not the
paddle
yeah,
wheeler on the
not the
outer
day
rivers.
boats.
So
Yeah.
my first time. Yeah, yeah. It was actually on the Danube. My very first river cruise. Obviously, it was after 89. It was way after 89. I did other trips before. For me, it felt like, my God, this is the greatest thing, because you are cruising, you are seeing so much. You are cruising from border to border through all the different countries. You know, you don't have to use the train, you don't have to fly, you don't have to think about the logistics. You can read a book on the sun deck, you can see the fishermen, you can see the birds. All of this, I felt it was the most amazing concept. And obviously, we all knew 20 years ago or so, river cruising was considered something for older people. When I cruised first on the river, I was probably 30 something years old, right? That is young, very young. And I fell in love already then with it. So that's why that actually was part of it, why I felt we need to break through this perception that river cruising is something for old people only. When I enjoy it, then all the other young people can enjoy it too. But we had to make some changes. So that's when we started our company. What is needed in order to change this perception? And so the bicycles were the first thing we brought on board. You know, the free internet was part of it too, because that was the time of the internet cafes. But as a guest on board, how can you enjoy shore excursions when you go off the ship in order to look for an internet cafe, because you have to be connected, right? So
Yeah.
you just cannot enjoy it. So the internet was the next we brought on board. And of course, with our compliments that the customers didn't have to worry about this. The next was, you know, when people meet each other, become friends on board, they want to share a glass of wine with each other. But it doesn't create the best atmosphere when they always check, okay, today I paid, tomorrow you paid, and so on. So why don't we include this? And wine is a culture, it opens conversation. And again, everyone has fun. And so this is how we were starting with having local, really good wines for dinner first. And then later lunch became part of it too. And then later our complimentary sip and sail hour. So that was all a development process. And when I look today at all the other river cruise lines, how they have developed, I'm very proud to say that many took over our concepts because it works.
Yeah.
And I think that was very flattering for us.
Yeah, that's what they say. Imitation is a sign of flattery. So you should be flattered. And I mean, I have to say, that was my first experience when I was lucky enough to come on board on a river cruise. And it just felt like a dream. It didn't even feel real to be able to see Europe and just being so comfortable and just being able to see the countries roll by. It seemed just something that was out of a book or out of a movie that I would never get to experience. And being able to sit on the deck and not do anything was just such a privilege. I couldn't believe it. So it is a segment that I recommend to almost everybody I talk to now. People who are very anxious to get back to Europe. I usually tell them the best way you could see Europe is on a riverboat.
Absolutely. And obviously there are so many young people. I mean, they read about all the stories in school books, right? Or of course online today. But the best is really to see with your own set of eyes where your grandfather was born, right? And what they experienced, and to be part of it, to take it all in, to really feel, wow, I mean, he lived maybe 100 years ago, but that's me today, 100 years later, right? That's how I actually felt the same with the pandemic. I said, well, 100 years ago, there was the Spanish flu. And what did the people really think about? And what did they go through? And was it as bad or not? And then we all know came the golden 20s afterwards, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully we're entering into another roaring 20s too. I think this. I mean, you're mentioning it seems like demand's pretty high for river cruising and for guests to get over to Europe. And I imagine it's not just AMA too. It's a lot of segments throughout travel. It's hotels and ocean cruises and tour companies and things like that. So hopefully it's a golden time for the whole industry, I think. This is Dan McCarthy, and you're listening to the Check-In Podcast.